How long will you play a bad game before calling it quits? And exactly how bad does a game have to be for you to leave a negative review? It kind of seems like the biggest and smallest developers worldwide have already cracked the code, and it's about 2 hours, right? I mean, according to Valve, I guess, or just maybe, they've all kind of figured out that you're way too lazy to really do anything about them releasing bad games. That's like the secret sauce, the trick, the mind game, or whatever the heck you want to call it. You, the player, have ironically grown complacent. Naturally, you don't want to leave a harsh or nasty review for something you just bought, not even for something you barely use. As modern consumers, we personally take on a lot of the blame as us just picking a bad game, and with these especially new and barren teams, we feel almost obligated to help kickstart and support all of their creative work by at least letting people keep the cash if we're not gonna give it a good review. But what if I told you that sometimes that is exactly how these teams want you to feel, and they've been wasting your time on purpose? Would you still feel good about letting them keep the cash and just ignorantly going on making more bad games because no matter what they do, they actually believe everyone loves their final product or will inevitably succumb to FOMO and play their popular game? Just like with current, let's call it late stage YouTube, we've now got new game creators popping up every day with a copycat or a straight up bad game, all in an attempt to go viral and capitalize off of one growing trend baked into every single algorithm right now. Keep the people engaged, not necessarily satisfied. You know the feeling. You boot up a new game that you thought looked kind of cool and you turn up the volume in your headphones, ready to unwind. Maybe there's a flashback, a cutscene, or even just a few paragraphs of backstory over a black screen to set the mood. Suddenly, you're dropped into a new environment. You just start walking around a little and you immediately notice fatal flaws that grow like weeds the longer you decide to play. Right away, either the sheer scale of game content and objectives overwhelms you into a paralysis, or you feel totally lost. You have no idea if your character even has objectives or a set path to follow. There's just environment. In the midst of your confusion, you realize it kinda has this weird filter over the entire screen that irritates your eyes. There's some weird setting in the graphics you can't change that's muddying up your graphics on a card that costs as much as a down payment on a house. The mouse sensitivity and FOV is making you motion sick, the music is too loud, the dialogue is barely a whisper, and maybe several hours in, you just realize you can't just save it, pause the game, and go to the bathroom for some reason. You have to either force yourself into a fail state or retrace your steps later, or just hold it until you make it to the next autosave. This would be no big deal except for the fact that it's designed to be excruciatingly painful to get from point A to point B. Nonetheless, retrace your steps from A to C and then D, just because you wanted a drink of water or failed once at a chase sequence. And now you can't even skip when you replay those same cutscenes or dialogue. I mean, even for the memes, why wouldn't an honest, passionate game developer think about any of these things before, I don't know, launching an entire series of half-baked games where they could have made just one single good game? And more importantly, why do you keep playing them expecting something better? You play games to feel something. There is an expectation that you will, for a moment, escape reality and get to experience something beautiful or just plain fun. It's like with a movie, except you get to transport yourself into the world and actually hide away from your own. And even when that immersion breaks or has already failed entirely, you don't want to give up in 20 minutes. Even worse, your payment or maybe a donation incentivizes you to give it a fair shot due to the sunk cost fallacy. Maybe you have literally nothing better to do anyways, and that's why you tried the game in the first place. Logically speaking, it feels like more content equals more game equals more good, but you're really just stuck waiting for it to eventually get better all the way until the end cutscenes. Like with scrolling, you're not trained to stop when something gets upsetting or stops feeling good. That's why we've added the word doom to it. You just kind of get sucked in. More than anything, you may just want to get to the end of a bad game and see it through, see how it ends. That is a mistake. You are allowed to just quit a game because the end sequence is too contrived or has no checkpoint. Maybe a boss fight is too hard to beat. As a matter of fact, you should quit more games halfway through when you get that itch. There are a million others for you to play instead for free or low of cost that you will love. Even today, where the barrier of entry is lower and more inviting to beginner programmers and developers than ever, I'm pretty sure everyone here knows that learning how to create a game is hard. It's already such a daunting task to finish a single game or demo that most of us can't really imagine dozens of people choosing to do this without any passion and on a very, very minuscule chance of return on investment. You don't even consider that these amazing creative people might be intentionally shipping unfinished games just to get it over with. Maybe they actually invest as little time and money as possible into each release just to ensure a smaller risk of loss when a heavy portion of them will inevitably flop. The issue is that's not love. It's all metrics, analytics, and insecurity. New age developers seem to have figured out that any engagement is still good engagement if your goal isn't to be a full-time game developer or even be loved. And when your heart isn't in it, you don't really run the risk of one bad game taking your sense of identity or costing you your life savings. This just encourages more copycats, oversaturation, and logic over feelings, where you prioritize safe moves over artistic integrity. This all kind of just starts to breed this brand new sin. A tight formula quickly emerges that can be easily repeated, and then it starts trending, getting watered down, copied by people who fall in love with the attention rather than the process. Quick cash and viral hits, merch shells, and then they disappear. I mean, you get it, right? We saw this happen to Mascot Horror just last year, yet no one has learned their lesson. They know that you'll give them a chance, even if they make an intentionally bad game, as long as it's something Queso or Charlie would play it on a stream. But really, I'm just angrier at small devs because we already saw this happen with the titans of the AAA industry, and at some point, it actually kind of seemed like indie teams were coming in hot to save us from this terrible fate and give us back thoughtful, creative experiences. Sadly, money talks, and the emerging truth is that even these simple, independent games aren't just being created for the sake of creation or to have fun anymore. There now exists a formula for the indies too. An extremely boring recipe iterated off of 50 meatheads all copying off of one really popular meathead who just forgot to add the baking soda that one time and it still worked. So, if you're one of these devs, you see the deal. You can either try to outdo AAA giants in Unreal and crash your computer, hire on employees, and establish yourself with an LLC in the industry, mimicking their realism and high fidelity as closely as you can on your budget and win the lottery to be recognized as a rare indie team to reach these Expedition 33 levels. Or, all from the comfort of your one-bedroom apartment, you can just copy off of someone else's viral game, tweak a few things, and at least go viral on Twitch, maybe even YouTube. The real issue comes when you clearly copy a recipe for chocolate chip cookies without even knowing what the hell a cookie is or what one should taste like. Then you go find the easiest, most bare bones, no bake and no flour, sugar-free recipes possible. You're just trying to turn a quick profit off a trend, and all of these new pop-up indie devs aren't incapable of making better games. Viewers and players are just giving them so much positive reinforcement to make more crap so they can be seen, that it seems pointless to shoot any higher if the bar is comfortably resting in hell. You see, they don't need the best cookie, just one so tough and burnt that it takes you at least 2 hours to get it down, and by then it's too late for a refund. So now you've got people swapping salt for sugar, raisins for chocolate chunks, and expecting players not to notice this cookie tastes bad. Now, of course, no sin is original in the year of 2026. And you betcha this trend we've been seeing sweeping across the indie scene isn't new either. Matter of fact, I think AAA might have even paved the way for this not so new path to success to spread like a fungus from traditional entertainment all the way into the gaming medium. You just think it started with mascot horror, but I'm here to convince you that actually everyone has been trying to waste your time for a lot longer than you notice. And in the past, there's been a huge premium tacked on top. With every new AAA game fighting to be the biggest and the baddest, open worlds have become the standard. They've turned into these big, gigantic chore lists with high fidelity trees and bushes rather than an experience. Slow traveling from mini-map to mini-map point is just there so you have time to immerse yourself in the story and lifelike atmosphere that they've paid so much money for. But really, you're just holding down sprint and aiming your character up. A lot of your time is spent just navigating from point to point rather than playing the game you've paid money for. And this issue would be a lot harder to bring up any issues with if it was just a rare occurrence in the indie scene, or some underfunded devs not having the ability to make better games in their vision. But the truth is that they're not really trying to give you better games because they know that more is better in the consumer's eyes. So they follow suit, and kinda like American trucks, they get bigger and dumber every year to convince you to spend more money. It satisfies expectations of growth or innovation that is expected of the AAA juggernauts while degrading them all at the same time. AAA is the only one that has the means to intentionally overwhelm players this much, while indie devs who want a piece of the pie have kind of found their own way to repackage a waste of time and or money as minimalist or low poly in an aesthetic that evokes nostalgia. They talk about it being vintage, retro, rebranded, just like the Goodwill's been doing to your old sweaty t-shirts. And again, I don't think it's worth even pretending we have to pit AAA against indie. We are not there yet, and I'm not sure we'll ever be there. I'm just disappointed, yet interested in both opposite poles of the medium. I'm here only to help you understand how they both disrespect your time and your intelligence in their own equal but separate ways. Maybe you'll realize you deserve better. Since I'm the one calling it out already, I bet you're wondering, well, what does this actually look like when I'm playing games? Show me some proof that this is actually happening on a large scale or even getting worse at all. Not in theory or as a concept or an essay, but how is my time actually being wasted in these games any more than it's been wasted already playing Genshin or COD? The trick here is the flaws and sneaky shortcuts aren't usually all wrapped up in one tight box. They tend to slowly creep up on you until it all snowballs right into an avalanche. And there, only when it's too late to take it back do you realize you're not really playing anymore, you're just getting through it. A lot of these games force players to backtrack several times to progress or even beat it once, all while offering no good checkpoints, so you play it all double the time for the same amount of net content. Painful trial and error chase sequences you're pretty sure were never play tested, or maybe super slow movement with no sprint button or no jump animation, and all of these poorly animated cutscenes you cannot skip on replay, forced loops and repetition disguised as routine or a gameplay loop are really hard to overlook. But even worse is filler dialogue that doesn't set the tone or creatively relay information and is just there to serve as exposition dumping that leaves you spam clicking through. What players are baited into is the promise of more bang for their buck or their time. They look at something like Hollow Knight and think, why can't other indie devs give me this much content per game too? The more playtime they add, the more they care about my enjoyment, right? But the issue is, when a developer doesn't really have any more good parts of their story or their game to give you, they're just left shuffling stuff around and moving the goalposts in order to keep your attention. More and more distance is added between good parts of this game's once good skeleton until it collapses. just so that no one notices this entire 2-hour immersive experience could have been an email. But dude, what's wrong with giving the people what they want? I hear you asking. Obviously, someone's playing and supporting these games, keeping them in business. I must be such a buzzkill, right? I mean, maybe I just can't be satisfied and no game will ever be good enough for me except for super high fidelity Game Awards slot. Maybe my taste is too refined for you, except it's not. Some of my favorite games have a little jank to them, bad dialogue, low fidelity graphics, and more, but they have had more heart to them than anything I could find today when searching to reignite this spark. And sometimes replaying old games just doesn't hit the same as finding a new, exciting game to dedicate your summer to. The truth is, we've been rewarding bad game design in favor of more hours of content to watch. Not refunding bad purchases and watching bad games online we don't even want to waste our time playing is one of the worst culprits because we're still getting these bad games the time of day. We're letting them see the light of day, and we're positively reinforcing people who see this viewership to copy these guys rather than the good ones. We also need to stop letting creators filter games for us until you don't even know how to form your own opinion first and enjoy games without constant reactions and commentary acting as a buffer. Without them, you're probably way more likely to realize when a game is wasting your time. By now, you should understand that the problem won't fix itself. We all need to start being honest when bad games come out and creators keep farting out bad content based on these video games and invite a new wave of clones every week. Like with zombies who only want brains, these devs are releasing these bad games because they really just want your attention and they see the trend. It's time to tame the horde. Start clearing out sections of the internet where genuinely thoughtful games are being promoted instead to thousands and millions of fans. Make it less taboo to tell someone their game was frustrating and broke your trust as a player when they overpromised and underdelivered for the 5th time in a row. If a game can just keep you distracted and playing without even trying, it doesn't encourage newbies to release their ideas now into an oversaturated minefield. It actually just tells the wrong creators that the standards of their first game ever were absolutely on point and that they don't have to bother iterating and innovating in the coming releases. These new developers take your response as gospel and dive headfirst into the bigger and better and now made an Unreal Engine trap because no one is telling them to stop before going over this cliff. With a huge, unusually contrived game, it's worse because you only realize there was no reward at the very end. That's how they get you. And then they get to enjoy the low cost and low effort payoff, while everything is just set up for them to make a sequel. Sound familiar? Now it's your job to help them see the light. Give criticism where it's due when something disappoints you and tell them exactly why. Don't just report bugs, report shitty features or plot devices that affect gameplay and enjoyment too. Of course, a shout out to Markiplier for starting the trend a little of getting these bigger creators comfortable with saying how they really feel about these games. But at least those guys are being paid to do so. We need to all be doing it even if you don't have a YouTube channel with like 30 million subscribers like him or Jacksepticeye. Now, of course, I don't want anyone to misunderstand my point. Games don't need to be shorter, they just need to be more honest with us. If you're a junior developer who can't make awesome art, that's okay. Hire an artist or take advantage of the low poly art style and choose to make your experience worth playing in other ways. Kinda like with Tabs in Schedule 1. Not really that good at coding, well neither was Toby Fox. And he created Undertale with a team of like 3 people, but what he did do amazingly was art direction and music. His strengths were what breathed life into the simple game. Is the story you really want to tell only like a 15-minute read? Cool. Just focus on what you do have that's real meaty and exciting. Try making it lighter and tighter experience that has purpose. It'll be like a nice lean fillet, something you pay more money for, not because of the quantity, but because of just how good it is. You can basically be the filet mignon of gaming right now. That avenue is wide open for you and totally accessible if you're not too intimidated by all the tomahawks and T-bones getting ordered left and right. You don't even need voice actors or a translator. Just use Google for rough translations and send it out into the community for feedback, and please engage in playtesting. Maybe you're thinking about recording voice acting for your first game all by yourself as a regular untrained person. Don't. Please just focus on giving players compelling dialogue and a story worth reading if those are your strengths. Then they'll be fine with reading it themselves. I promise. And finally, to the aspiring developers out there tempted to hop on the trend, or those who have already succumbed to the seductress that is trend hopping, I see you. I feel you. Seriously, I get it, but just remember there's almost 1 million ways to make one game based off of the trend. And try to remember that more people may try your game out initially when you copy others, but no one appreciates thrice reheated nachos as much as a fresh taco or quesadilla instead. Personally, I don't like the way that we've all grown complacent with hollow repetition because everyone's really just too scared to say or do anything too different and have it end poorly. One team does something right in a new way that is unique, and suddenly everyone instantly copies them. One game blows up about a certain topic or a certain genre, and now all of our feeds are flooded with bizarre games and Let's Plays that have nothing new to say about alternates. As new devs, we kinda steer the boat, and that comes with great responsibility and also a necessary arrogance, but we also need to learn how to be a lot less insecure, actually receive criticism as it comes, and not just ignore the haters because the formula is still working for that one game or one series for now. Keep in mind that, much like with YouTube, you don't chase or want a viral first game. You don't want to accidentally write yourself into a corner, so to speak, where you slowly realize the only reason people paid any attention to you was because you were brand new, or that you had this VHS horror game style that was trending at the time. Focus on building a community first that likes the way you think, write, and design, so that even when the next trend pops up, you're not left in the dust scrambling to keep up with your big, shiny replacement. And sincerely, to the viewers wishing to be active players again, speak up. You may not be able to control what other people have already made, nor do you want to shit on people who you feel are more creative than you or just trying their best. But you don't have to be a game developer to know when something feels off, recognize a pattern, and critique it. You just have to love games, which you already have covered if you're still watching to the end of this video. I encourage you to be picky with your time and learn to call out blatant disrespect when you notice that another shiny new game is really just scrambling to grab your attention rather than to fulfill you or hold up its end of this silent social contract. For every 5 messy, padded games you sit through in silence, think of how there could have been at least one good game out there made just for you that you're missing out on in return. Maybe those 500 devs would have made something much richer and more unique by now if you'd ever told them the issues with games 1 through 4. Next time you play a new game for the first time and you start to feel that familiar exhaustion, that gut instinct telling you that this isn't really anything like what you thought it was going to be, ask yourself, am I still having fun, and is completing this game worth my precious hours? Is it even going to feel good getting there, or when I finally get there? Is the process or the climb worth it? Chances are, if you're asking yourself this question, you already know the answer. You know you have a problem, you've just been too scared to admit it. But I think you can agree with me when I say it's time for a change. Thank you.